All right, kids, it is April 6th, and we're going to go over what's going down for this week for Group A. So on Friday, I sent out lesson plans to your parents and yourselves to your Gmails. So just give you an idea what's going on this week. And this is our SLO week. So we are going to take the SLO test on Thursday, and I'll give you a time for that. Let's call that 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So if you could please get in between 9 and 11 and take that test. Just to kind of give you a heads up, I know a lot of you are not up by then, and it would be nice if I could schedule these tests for the afternoon. That would be nice. However, from what we've been seeing, and I'm sure you've seen it too, Schoology and Google and a lot of things in the afternoon are not working. Primarily because you're all awake and using it. So we're gonna have. I'm gonna move all of the tests to earlier in the morning because they seem to be working a lot better than when we do them in the afternoon. So you have an SLO test, and we're going to review in this video everything about that. So Monday through Wednesday, I'm going to give you some materials to go over to prepare for that test. So that's it. We'll get into it here in just a second. I just want to remind you too, office hours are going to be 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. Monday through Thursday. And then of course I'll be online during the test to reset people or do whatever we need to do here. With the office hours, we're still opening up a discussion in Schoology. Now, I say 9 to 10. I'm really here most of the day. So if you post something on there, I'll get to it eventually. But from 9 to 10, I'm really like watching it. So if you post a question, I'll answer it almost immediately. Later in the day, if you post something, it may be a little bit till I get back to you, but I will get to you eventually. And to be honest, if it's any time up until like 2 o'clock, you're probably going to get an answer pretty quick. So just kind of give you a little heads up there. Let's go ahead and on the website. So don't forget about the old website here, English 122 Honors. On the right-hand side is the SLO page. So we're going to go here. Now, what we need from the SLO page is the SLO presentation, which will take us to this here. Okay, so this is just a Google slide. Nothing too fancy about this. We would have gone over this in class, but now we're doing it in person. So the SLO. Now, if you remember, you had to take this. This was like the second day of school, maybe the first day. I forget. It was very early on. Because you had to do it for every class, just about that. Like the grades don't really matter. So if you did really poorly on it, it didn't count as anything. I think I gave you participation credit. Like everybody that took it got participation credit. Everybody got like 100% participation just for taking it, regardless of what your actual grade is. So this time around, this is the second. So that was a pre-test. Now, whenever we pre-test, you don't get like a grade because you're expected to do poorly on a pre-test because you're not supposed to know the information. On a post-test, you are expected to know the information. And as you'll find as I go through this review, we've been working on these things all year. So there's nothing new here. Now with this test, here's how I grade it. On the SLO, you are expected to show a percentage of growth from the first time you took it to the second time. What is that percentage? I have no idea. They won't tell me. There's a formula, but they won't let me look at that either, so it's all super top secret. I put your number in a spreadsheet, and I either get a green yes or a red no, and that's it. So I can't really tell you how much you need to improve. All I can tell you is that you need to improve. So here's what it is. If you hit your percentage growth and I put your number in and you get a green yes, then I will give you a 100 out of 100 achievement points because we're doing achievement points again. I don't know why we weren't there for a little bit, but that's another discussion. So we're back to achievement points. You'll get a 100 out of 100 achievement points, regardless of what your actual score is, okay? So even if you got a 75 out of 100, but hey, you hit your growth target, boom, 100%, just like that, okay? Now, just to kind of give you a heads up over the years, it's rare that someone does not hit their growth target, but I'm going to give you some strategies to make sure that you do, because I would say 1 to 2 students a year do not hit it. So we want to make sure that everybody does get it, so you get your 100 out of 100. Because if you don't hit it, you get a 50 out of 100, which is nobody wants that. So let's not do that then. First thing we need to look at is a summary, how to write a summary. So again, we've gone over this a lot this year. I have the detailed instructions on how to write a summary right there. It's basically this formula. Now, in the past on the SLO, kids were expected to know the formula, like have memorized it. You don't have to do that this year because, this is pretty much every test we do is open book, open note. So you'll be able to look at this formula, which means everyone should get this perfectly. And remember, with this, we're looking for punctuation, making sure we have our quotation marks in the proper space. Our parentheses are in the correct spot, making sure that the comma is where it's supposed to be, and that we are using details from the piece in order to write our summary. So with these summaries, I'll give you an example of what it'll look like here on the next slide. So I'll give you a piece like this. No, I won't. That's an actual what a summary should look like. So there's an example of that here. So on the actual test, you're going to get a paragraph kind of like this, and you'll be asked to summarize a paragraph, okay? And then below this is your paragraph. Below, you will get your actual, like all of your information, author, page number, year, all that kind of stuff. So all the things you'll need to make, to fill in the specific details, like up here, like your title, the source, the date, the author, okay, all that type of information. Now, some of these are a little tricky. If we go through, like this one, author's unknown. So, like, you have to know what to do when the author's unknown, which we've gone over 1,000 times. We basically just say the author. There's no name. So we just leave it as the author. The author, we go back up here. The author supports the main idea. We just leave it as the author. We don't change the name because we don't know who that person is. Some of these have paragraph numbers instead of page numbers. Now, remember, we don't use paragraph numbers anymore. So we don't, like, if it has a paragraph instead of a page, you don't use it because we don't do that anymore. So just a couple little curveballs there. What you'll want to do here, I'm not going to go over these because, again, we've beat summaries to death. But I think what you should do is informally, not to submit for an assignment, but I would go through and maybe read one of these and write a summary. Maybe even practice and do all three. It won't take you very long, especially since I know probably 95% of you are very good at doing this. So go through, give it a couple practice, make sure you're ready to go. I can tell you the summary was part of the written portion of the SLO, and many of you did not even do it the first time. So if you go from a 0 from not doing it to, I think it's a 9, I think they're 9 points each. That's huge. That's a 9 if you do it perfectly. You still have to do it perfectly. If your punctuation is wrong, I still mark off. So make sure your commas and quotation marks are in the right spot. But still, like, you can make up a tremendous amount of points with the summary. I want you to go through and take a look at the works cited page. I have a lot of information here. I have a sample, what it should look like. Again, most of you are very good with the works cited page. Some of you still have a lot of work to do on this, but this goes over everything we talked about. Like, don't ever bold anything ever. Like, you don't ever bold your title. You don't ever bullet or number your entries. They're always alphabetized. So make sure you go over all of the information here on the works cited page. These will be mostly multiple choice questions here. Next, a little paragraph sandwich action. And how to integrate quotes. Again, I would say 90% of you are great at integrating quotes. Some of you are not. Go over these two links. At least go over the first one. The first one's kind of general. The second one's more detailed. You may not really need that. But go through this right here and look at, like, how to integrate quotes and just kind of make sure you're doing it the right way. Then we get into your literary criticism paper. So here are some things. Now with Group A, I had to look it up there. I forgot whether you guys have done this or not. So you haven't done this yet, which is fine because you're going to start doing it at the end of the week. This is actually it's the beginning of next week, I think, is when we start the Lit Crit paper. Regardless, you need to know that a literary criticism paper has an attention getter, just like the book Fahrenheit 451, which you also have not read. It should contain information about the author. It should contain information about the author's background and about the book that they wrote. It should also have a thesis statement. The thesis statement is the last sentence of the first paragraph. And here, this tells you, like, how to write a thesis statement. So all of these things are important here. Even though you haven't done the Lit Crit paper, having the knowledge that I've put on these slides should be enough. Ideally, we would have gotten to it already, but of course, with everything that's going on, it just wasn't possible. But it's coming. It's going to happen. The purpose of a literary criticism paper is to better understand and evaluate the author's work. Usually we do Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. You guys are going to be doing John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, but same thing, we're going to analyze part of The Grapes of Wrath. That's what we're going to do here. And to help me, to help you, to help other people better understand something about it. Okay, it's not to punish you, although sometimes it feels that way. You also need to know that plagiarism is bad. It's always been bad. It's never been good. Common knowledge is one thing, but if you are taking information from another source, from another person's ideas, and you are putting it in your paper, you need to give that person credit. Kids always ask me like, well, how many citations is too many? That's not a thing. There's no such thing as too many. There's not like it could ever be too many. Now, every single sentence shouldn't be cited, but that's more of a writing style thing than anything else. But if you're using a paraphrase, a direct quote, someone else's ideas, you have to cite it every time, every single time, forever, for the rest of your life, for before today. It's always been that way. It's never not been that way. It's always been a rule. I can't emphasize enough like how it's just how it is. Okay. So, and I know sometimes kids are like, well, he's doing his cite it. Just cite it. It's not that hard. We've gone over how to cite things in class when we did the character paper. It's not bad. You just have to do it. Okay. So there's that. Next, soapstone. So there is a soapstone here. I'll take a look at this briefly. Now, you are not going to see this like, okay, when it gets there. Any day now, buddy. You're not going to see this, but what's going to happen is you are going to get an article to read, and then you will get like pieces of these. Okay, so you won't have to complete a whole soapstone at once. You'll get kind of pieces. Now, with a soapstone, we've done this a couple times this year. The big thing, complete sentences. And also make sure that I know this because that you're using evidence from the text to support your knowledge and that you're thoroughly explaining what you're doing. You're not just saying, I know this because I read it, because that doesn't count. That's not an explanation. So make sure to have a solid explanation using evidence from the text, maybe citing that evidence because that's what you would do always, forever. Have it complete sentences with capital letters and periods and those kind of things. So you want to take a look at these. So my recommendation with a lot of this SLO stuff is you should go through this slide in a little, I kind of went over it briefly, go over it in detail, click through the links. It probably won't take you that long. I'm giving you 3 days to get it done. It definitely should not take 3 days, but I know, keeping everything pretty flexible here. And also you want to do this quizzes review. This is going to review comma stuff that's going to be on there, things that we've worked on. That you've probably forgotten. So take a look at the quizzes, go through the commas, make sure you know all the rules for that there. So that's everything for your SLO. It's open book, open note, just like all of our tests are right now. We are going to, where'd I go? 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Thursday. Remember, there's no school on Friday. So Good Friday. And that's all I've got. If you need something, hit me up in office hours. If it's something personal you don't want other kids to see, hit me up with an email. Okay, have a good one.